Is that going live? I knew there's no reaction.
You can't see me, right?
No. That's hilarious. This is also hilarious. Hello, hello, hello. John from Arizona and user 742773. Spacey. What's up? Kulgd. What's the name? I can never add it to the... because the handles are so weird. Asking you, KLGD. Good evening, you think? Oh, you mean you don't know what time zone I'm in? I am... well, if you are actually in Arizona, we're the same time zone. I'm in LA. Oh my god. Is this Cal? Bro, I haven't seen you in... I think 8 years, right? Andrew Jaworski. Jaworski. Austin's in the house. How are you, brother? Good to see you. No, I know KLGD. Oh man, that's not a good handle. We might want to switch that. Actually, 1 hour different winter only. Oh, wait, you guys don't move the time? That's hilarious. I did not know that. It's so funny. And some states do that, some states don't. I was convinced that everybody in the world are doing that, but apparently some places do it at different times, and then other places don't do it at all. That's confusing. Well, it's crazy we're in a different time zone now. What's up, Gnostic Knowledge? How are you? We're entering a new territory. Never thought I'd catch a stream this early. Yesterday the stream was like at 4 p.m. So that was wild. Yeah, we are entering a new time. I'm doing my best to keep these now. What's up, Just Jen? Because I mean, I was traveling so much, it was really hard to keep up with the schedules. And then, you know, kind of with the daily routines every single day. Just by the time I'm done with the day, that these were the times, and yeah, it was very difficult. You know, it says I was just telling someone about your work about an hour ago. Now you're here. I know, that's crazy. I am here every day though, so it's a little bit less of a coincidence. But I appreciate you being here, that's for sure. So apparently we have aliens in the oceans with mind-controlled ships. I mean, I think we knew that, no? Was this news? My name is Vanessa. I watched your 4-minute video and it was fascinating. Thank you so much, Gnostic Knowledge. How are you, Vanessa? Welcome to the community. Daylight savings is absurdity. Maybe. I think there's more serious things to worry about. Yeah, everybody are amazed at the time. I know. It hasn't been this normal time in forever. Whoa, ambient glass. You're a little hot on the trigger there. I think you're there's a little bit of a chill pill in order, I think. We'll check on it today. We'll see if we can send you the with the tracking number. You're right. What is normal? I agree with that. Have you heard of the litro camera? No. What is the litro camera? That looks cool. What does it do? Lightfield digital. Oh man. Maybe I need a little bit more. What about them? What do they do? They're like $500. They look cool. What is the point of them? They look super dope. What do they do? Yesterday, same as if you move the surface that the laser is shining on. Does the code move? Oh yeah, Evan. How are you? So let me read the full comment. Yesterday, someone asked if you move the surface that the laser is shining on. Does the code move also? The answer is yes. The code doesn't stay still. I used the door. Just wanted to report this. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. I mean, it's what I expected. I just thought it was a brilliant question because I never thought about that. And it would be wild, actually, if that wouldn't be the case, right? Because that would mean that there's some kind of a like layer in between us and light and matter. That would be crazy. But thank you for reporting. That's a great answer. That's what I love about this community. People just like right on it. Thank you so much, Evan. I appreciate that. You tried it yesterday? Good morning, Vietnam. What's up? From Germany. Have you ever had an out of body experience or remote viewing? People ask me this all the time. I don't know what the difference between that and going on a molecule adventure. So it's hard for me to answer. If anybody here had both, if you can tell me if there's a difference, and if so, what is that difference? Cheaper on eBay. Oh, wait. We have. Oh, you're talking about the camera, Kel. You're always on it, man. I love it. Also, can't wait to do the next meetup so you can also show up. What's up, Oscar Rydberg? Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And then Cal said, cheaper on eBay, defunct. They take images at an infinite focal range. May capture the code. Long shot. What do you mean by infinite focal range? What does that mean? I mean, isn't that all cameras? I mean, beyond a certain point, it's up to infinity. No, am I confusing something here? What was your personal experience and how did it feel? Did it feel as real as it looks? What are we talking about specifically? Brother Walks? Hey Danny, it's me, Borsch. What's up, Borsch? Wait, let me get. You're the one that makes all the Borsch, all the food jokes on TikTok, right? I love them, by the way. I wanted to let you know that I have been actively checking in on your Discord community, and I'm very excited to see what reactions I get to the paintings I shared there. Oh, thank you. I will check it today. You've ever tried other nanometers? Yes. I believe all wavelengths work. I think it's just that they were pointing to 650 nanometers in the beginning because it's easier to look at over time because the frequency is lower. Or at least that's my assumption. Very excited to see the collective experiences of the splatter painting experiment I've designed. I think it can help us unify some thoughts and understandings. I agree. From what you sent me, it's incredible. I think there's something there that is very important. So thank you for working on this and figuring it out. Blue or green would work, yes, absolutely. It's different than using a substance. I think that is just one of the many differences between OBEs, RVs, or having a molecule experience. Right, but can we try and articulate it? I think it's important. Is there something about edge detection? Is there something about the way it's continuous over time? Is it the same difference between what we would describe the difference between a dream state and a waking state? How would you differentiate these? So the object 3D in the code. Yeah, I mean the objects are 3D in the code. Has anyone ever seen a regular alphanumeric characters in the code? Or is it always symbols? That was probably been asked already. Sorry. No, don't be sorry. Even the codes that I'm describing, they're just adjacent to what I'm saying. It's not really Japanese. It's not really Hebrew. It's just kind of like around there. And there are things that kind of look like regular numbers. So I guess yes, but they're not exactly that. And the business is in the house. Bro, every time you show up, first of all, yes, it's a normal hour. Everybody are blown away by this. But every time you show up and then you disappear after 5 minutes, it's very sad. I hope you'll stay a little longer today. Maybe you'll even jump to say hi. Also, I really love what you wrote. I read the whole thing. It was incredible. Thank you for that. Hello from Snail Smurf from China. Pirate is saying, "Hey Danny, you inspire me to seek out a shaman. It's happening in December." Yes, and also you're doing it the right way. Because shaman way is the right way to go if you've never done it before. Litro equals light field camera captures light direction and intensity. Reverse of hologram, I believe. Oh, it's exactly what we need. Interesting. Because I do believe we're the hologram looking back, so I think it's exactly what we need. Okay, I'll get one. What do we learn here? We are talking about the simulation hypothesis that I'm claiming is no longer a hypothesis, but can actually be tested. That's what we usually talk about. I haven't actually personally experienced an out-of-body experience of sorts, but interested to hear. Yeah, I'm also interested to hear. I've never had one, I guess. Shaman doesn't have a laser though. Well, you guys can always order one, either from us or from Amazon. And if you need help, if you order it from just external source and you need some help figuring out how to put the pieces together, feel free to email me. I'll definitely help out. No problem, with pleasure. It's lasersimulationx@gmail.com. What's up, Dale? Say hello officially. The symbols in the laser code are very similar to the code symbols used to create the internet. How do you mean? I've never heard of this before. It's very interesting. I've never heard of this before. You should do tours, come to Toronto. You know what? The funny thing is, in the last maybe 2-3 weeks, it kind of felt like I'm on a tour. I went to Vegas, Omaha, I wanted to say Napa, but no, Tampa, and now I'm going to DC. It literally feels like I'm on a tour. So maybe soon, actually. Just one of these lasers. I guess the fear of Rob from what was the name of his channel? Why am I spacing on the name of his channel? I should plug him. He has a good channel. I forget. Demetrius. Wait. Hold on. I think it's just a lot of noise from over there. You know what I mean? So, dude, what is the name of the channel? Drives me crazy. I see him right here. Let's see. Ay. Oh, it's him being interviewed. Adaptus. Oh my god. I was like, Demetrius? Wow, I haven't been on I haven't interacted with his channel in so long that I forgot. But great channel. So anyways, Adaptus is that how you say? Adaptus belongs to Adaptus. Adaptus's fears are coming true. It is becoming a cult. The laser cult. It seems that no matter how hard you try, you can't really prevent from things like this happening. What's up, Solar Slice? Okay, total newbie here. Explain the laser code thing to me. You got it, Seth. It's very simple. I discovered a few years ago that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface, which just means the same kind of laser that you see in a supermarket when you scan the barcode, and you project it on any surface, and you ingest a particular molecule that I cannot name here, but you can find it on all my videos. You'll know what I'm talking about. And you will see code running where the laser is being when the laser shines. That's where you see the code, and it's everywhere. It's not moving with the light. It's in the surface, so it seems to be part of what we would call objective reality. That's the gist of the experiment. Do I need to retract the laser? What does that mean? I don't know what retract the laser means. Oh, and by the way, Pirate, you can just go to codeofreality.com. That's why I will also respond in the email if you ask for instructions. It's codeofreality.com. You have the full protocol there with all the details. And if you still have questions after the protocol, feel free to ask me in the email. But it's codeofreality.com, and you have the full protocol. Refract, diffract. I made a mistake in my first video talking about it, and I said refract when in fact you need to diffract first. So you need a diffracting lens, diffracting lens, but it comes with the laser from Amazon, which is like super simple to make. If you refract it later with water, it also helps. I wanted to get into some slightly deeper subjects today, so I'm trying to answer as many surface questions as possible, and then when I feel it feels right, then we'll dive into the deeper things. By the way, everybody here in the chat, if you guys feel like giving the chat a little bit of smash the like button just so we can get more viewers. For some reason, we're stuck on 10 people. Thank you so much, Soul Slice. I appreciate you. That's actually abnormal for this channel at this point. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully we're not being shadow banned or something like this. So if you guys can give us a few likes to see if we can amp up the traffic, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And thank you for the gifts, Soul Slice. I really appreciate you. I will never forget the day, the business that you gave me 10,000 likes. And I think it's the same day that the chat got stuck and then I had to restart. There's a lot of beautiful work by you. Thank you. Okay, there's a lot of comments. You know what? I feel like I need a little bit, just a tiny bit of a pick-me-up, so we're going to make some coffee. Manda loves cakes in the house. When you ingest said molecule, do things become more difficult to identify what is genuine? No, because specifically with the molecule, you essentially become, it's almost like the opposite of being high. You feel like the world is more real than less. In this context, what you see in the laser feels even more realistic than that, because I'm claiming it is. Manda loves cakes in the house. Miss you. Love you. Thank you so much for being here. Always makes me happy to see you here. You want to pass on the laser to someone in being blessed? I mean, cool. That's also nice of you. Boris is saying the strongest out-of-body experience I have had were in the forest. Dude, that's hardcore. I laid down in the grass and became one with the universe and was sent into the stratosphere. I mean, that sounds just lovely and incredible in every way. Was this during the day or during the night? The Lublink saying, is it Lublink? Well, in my experience, it's all a waking state, but using mushrooms, for instance, feels like a dream. Whereas leaving your body feels like real-time floating in around, not in the body. Interesting. Thank you for telling me this. But I have also read many books where people also experience OBEs or astral projection, and it feels like a dream. I didn't experience that though. Wait, so what is the... what is the... Oh man, sorry, that's why I'm making coffee. David, let make some coffee real fast. Levels of what feels real? Я тебя люблю тоже. Dream, waking life, astral plane, by that order. Interesting. So the business, you are astral projecting on a regular basis, right? So can you tell me the difference between, let's say, one of the molecules in that? What would be the main difference in the way that it feels? 1 second, making the coffee. Solar Slice is saying, I have drawing that can prove creating through geometry, science, physics, and Genesis. I don't know how you can do that. And by the way, quick comment to everybody who wants to come on the chat. I see DM is trying to come on the chat. If you can drop one comment that tells me what you want to talk about, that would be great. And then we can, if it fits the subject matter that we're trying to dive into right now, then we'll definitely do it. It achieves two things. One, I will notice that you're actually paying attention to what we're doing and not just an account that jumps on a bunch of chats. And the other thing is I will be able to prepare and think how we inject this into the subject matter of the conversation that we're already having. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We have, the website name is codeofreality.com. Codeofreality.com. If you put the laser on a living object like a tree, person, or animal, does the code still appears? Yes, it's in every single thing. Oh, by astral plane you mean the molecule. And yeah, the business, I understood that that's what you meant by the levels, but I was wondering, and now you answer my question. That is super interesting. But do you astral project on a regular basis, or was it just different lifetimes that you jump in and out of, which is still insane, but I guess it's a little different, right? What's up, DM? That's weird to think about. Code is probably anywhere in the universe. May I have a word? My beliefs. Sure, I'll bring you on in one moment. Sure, I'll bring you on in one moment. I just want to dive into a couple of housekeeping comments, and then I'll bring you right in. So just hang right in there, and I'll bring you right in them. Thank you so much for letting me know. Think Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain, you mean like the On It? From On It, right? How does it make you feel? What's up, Mona? Yeah, nootropic. Yeah. By the way, did you guys ever try this? Any of you? This is just one brand, right? The methylene blue stuff. So somebody recently recommended and I'm trying to start taking it. A lot of people are raving about this. Anybody has experience with this? Lunch. I'm gonna read a few more comments on YouTube and then we'll bring Deem. We'll bring you in. Okay, I'm gonna finish reading some of the comments on YouTube real quick. Yeah, man, look, we're stuck at 10 people. That is weird. I almost feel like something is a little off here. Interesting. Well, my experience at the waking state, using mushrooms and stuff, then your body feels like real time floating. Okay, we got that, but I have. Trying to go through the comments quickly and see what stands out as different. Very cool of you to open source the laser design. By the way, 99% of people would close this off to make sales of the laser. You mean like if we would just be selling the laser? Yeah, the only reason we're selling it is because people asked us to. But it's actually easier for us if people just make it. So, but I appreciate the compliment. Is the code from God or the architect? What would you say is the difference in your opinion? Yeah, if you can hit the like, that'd be awesome. Yeah, actually, it's funny because we don't have this problem I see across, and the number 42, we don't have this problem I see across YouTube and TikTok and X, Welcome everybody. I didn't even do an introduction to this channel, so right before we bring some guests to chat, let me just do a quick intro. This channel usually revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in a simulation. I discovered a few years ago that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and you inject a particular molecule, you will see code running in surfaces. It's almost like I'm reading an infomercial. It's okay, I'm just kidding. You guys can always ask questions that we can clarify. If you're new here, don't hesitate to ask. We are here every single day to discuss both the discovery as well as science in general, religion, spirituality, philosophy, God, whatever comes to mind. And you can find me across all platforms. It's Danny Goller on TikTok and Instagram, Goller Danny on X, LaserX83 on Twitch, and Dango Thoughts on YouTube, DANGO Thoughts on YouTube. So you can definitely find me on all of these. And I've added a members program, actually also on TikTok, and I appreciate all the members, but also now on YouTube, and I appreciate all the new members, which will include personal conversations with me on Zoom, personal lives on a weekly basis that I'm going to launch very, very soon, probably from next week. They're going to be separate from the daily lives, as well as extra content doesn't exist anywhere else on my platforms. So if you're joining my members program, I promise I'm going to constantly work to improve it, and I'm always open for suggestions of how to do so. So that's everything I wanted to say on that. A few more comments on YouTube, and then we'll dive right in to interact with some guests. And thank you so much for reminding everybody to hit the like button across platforms, YouTube and TikTok and X. You as well, if you don't mind. It really helps the live if you can like the live. I have a rare chance to connect to you directly. Well, first of all, it makes me feel very important. I don't know if I'm that important, but I appreciate you, and we're here so we can chat about whatever you want. Deep dive. And I love the handle, Physics of Important Things. I would like to ask you to talk about a podcast with you, and I'll do a sponsorship donation for sure. So first of all, I don't want you to feel the obligation to pay if I'm appearing on a podcast. If you want to do a donation, regardless, that's awesome, but it doesn't have to be just because I'm appearing on the podcast. Send me the details of the podcast to lasersimulationx@gmail.com. lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Actually, I'll make it easier because people ask about the website a lot, and on the website you also have the email. So, two birds. There you go. That's the website. Send me the details about the podcast. At the moment, my entire next month is pretty much booked, but I always consider new podcasts, even if you don't have a big following. It doesn't matter if the people are cool and there's a cool vibe. I'm always down, and there's time, of course. Have I seen the elves? No joke. Definitely, I've seen much more than the elves. No joke. Everyone's gotta eat. That's true. Thank you so much, Mr. Weird. Love the handle. Love the beard. Big fan of the beard. And I'm not kidding. I'm serious. Triple espresso, dude. I know. Today, the yawn started at 6:43. That's not okay. Also teleported. How did you teleport? This popped up in my feed. What is going on here? What's up, Tanya? My name is Danny, and I'm claiming that I found proof that we'll actually live in a simulation. That's the gist of this chat, and it happens every single day. Hope this answers your question, and welcome to the community. This place isn't what we think it is. Well, that's for sure. Do you know what you are? Here we go. God? Is that what you want to say? Curious skepticism. Perfect. Whoa! This is the coolest thing ever. This is the coolest one so far. The jellyfish? That was amazing. That's incredible. And we amped up a little bit with the number of viewers, so great. I need to check if your ideas match with computational drum. I don't know how to read this word even. Dramaturgy? Dramaturgy? What does that mean? That's my topic, by the way. Just wonder what you feel about it. Curious skepticism. That's how we should always approach the world. Methylene blue, yeah. Doesn't it turn your poo blue? So far, no, but I have to say, I kind of feel a difference. I had like very serious people rave about it. That's why the only reason I tried it. What mic am I using? That's literally just the Max, the uh, of just my regular MacBook Pro mic. Well, I'm happy that it sounds good. Surprised to see you at this time on YouTube. Yeah, that's true. Usually, ambient glass. I think it's before you joined the community. These were my regular hours, and then I started traveling a lot, and then I had to do chats at like 3 a.m. And then we lost a lot of good people like the Business and Cal, and I missed them dearly. Manda loves cakes as well. Patricia as well, but she's not with us today. There's a lot of people that are regulars with the community, and I love them dearly, and I couldn't see them in our daily lives. It was very sad. So I'm glad to go back to these hours. NBA Glass is saying it is a rare time. I think you are going to get too big to answer so many questions very soon. Well, what we will do is we'll just consolidate the questions into some. First of all, we do have a document. I should ask Irv where it is, but frequently asked questions. But aside from that, I'll try to do my best to still keep the information kind of dialed in a way that it travels between the super specific to the broad and so on. In the documentary trailer, you show people the laser effect. Did you prime them in anything for what they've been looking for? Some I did, some I didn't, and it doesn't really matter. After you see the code, you'll understand that it just appears in a very realistic way. The second you see it, you know that it doesn't really matter if anybody told you anything, and you know that actually you don't need anybody else to see it. You know immediately you're looking at something real. It's hard to explain why. It's possible to explain why, but it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to extrapolate exactly why. And there are, I think there's a few videos I'm talking about this, but the general gist of it that it appears very real. So I hope this answers some of your question. How could you verify it's not distortion of your visual cortex, etc.? Could it be verified using AI? Eventually, if you can record directly from the cortex, that's a great question. But this, again, the simple answer is, how do you know that this is not a distortion of your visual field? I'm asking a real question. This is not I'm not being a smart ass. So how do you know this is not a distortion of your visual field? Nico's in the house. How you doing, brother? So you know this is not a distortion of your visual field, right? Oh, look at me. Infinite. That's awesome. So in the same way, you know that the code is not a distortion of your view. This is how real it is. That's why. Okay. I think we'll go to our guest. And then we'll adhere a little bit more to the rest of it. It's being rendered. Nice. I like this. Oh, where did you disappear? I thought you were waiting. Hold on. Damn, you disappeared from my thing. You want to request again? I don't see an option to request you. So you want to request to join the chat real quick? Let's see if I can find you. I don't see you, unfortunately. Well, if you want to join the chat, you're more than welcome. This will be the time. Deme, D-E-M-E, would love to bring you on. But you have to request again because I don't see you in my requests. I just finally tried the experiment a few minutes ago, and it was very tiny, but I think I saw it. Yep, it's very tiny in the beginning, Nick. Thank you for letting us know. Appreciate you, man. And you will see it more and more coherently, and also you will see it bigger structures the more you interact with it. On the filter. Would you throw that more on the filter? What do you mean by that? Did you say that it's near the surface layer and you can see it from a few inches away, but not when you are really close because you look past it? No, I said the opposite. In the beginning, it's not just on the surface, it's the opposite. It's actually the whole thing aside from the surface. So you will see it also close to the surface, but it's not on the surface. It's an infinite field that goes extends infinitely forever into the z-axis, and it's everything. It's just everything. So you can see it everywhere in every part of the code, in every part of the laser, no matter where you place the laser. It's just that your eyes and your mind, I guess, need to get used to seeing it, and that eventually you'll see that the whole thing is that. So it doesn't matter if you're going to sit close and look in or sit further away and look through, you will see the whole thing unfolding. Oh, don't worry about the typos. I'm the typo king. Absolutely, man. And then you'll see that you don't have to make a lot of effort. As long as you focus on these rotating letters, thank you so much, Nico. I appreciate you, brother. You will see a deep, more and more and more details all the time. It's a one-way street. So you can see behind the code. Well, the code extends forever. Minutes ago is awesome. Wondering if the original Bible content was more of a user's guild on how to survive here. Maybe something like that. Okay, yeah, so Dem, I don't know, you disappeared on us. If you come back, I'll bring you on, but... And welcome to all the newcomers to the chat. If you guys feel like you need a refresher of what we're doing here, feel free to ask. But in general, we're talking about the fact that I'm claiming that I found proof that we live in a simulation, and this is a daily chat. Today's Simulation Talk 115, in which we talk about that, but also we talk about science in general, and philosophy, and God, and spirituality, and whatever comes to mind. A lot of fun things. We try to stay away from politics, though, just so you guys know. Yeah, TikTok is starting to pick up finally. Thank you, Mr. Weirdbeard. I know, we're absolutely in the Matrix. Okay, so we go back to YouTube. Oh, there was a subject I wanted to talk about. What was it? Oh, is that too... I feel like maybe it's a little bit too long of a subject matter. But what was really fascinating me recently is why we care about what we care about. And specifically, I mean, you know, the more I interact with the chat, the more I notice that there's different kinds of questions. So there's different questions, but there's also different kinds of questions. And what interests me in particular is that a lot of people are really interested in the specifics of how we make, both deciphering the code, for example, or the specifics of what we're hearing right now a lot on YouTube, which is like these descriptions of personal accounts of astral projection, out-of-body experience, all of these things. And the thing I started realizing that what interests me is why these particular things hold people's attention versus any other thing. And this is the lens that I want to try and view everything through, because I think it's a very helpful guide to understand what actually animates people to both ask the questions and engage with particular materials. We're absolutely in the Matrix. We're creators. So will magma mushrooms work in place of the molecule? Great question about the mushrooms. If you go anywhere above 3.5 Gs, I think you should be good. But as you know, that's basically going to take you a whole day. Thank you for letting us know, Ria. Or Ri? How do you pronounce that? Is there a way to get permanent connection to the other side of reality to transfer it to outer states being of real benefit? If you ask me, there's no other side of reality. There's just an infinite informational space, and we occupy some corner of that. Oh, this is really cool. Really like all the ones that you, Mr. Weirdbeard, sending me. I appreciate you. I should start acting them out like these people, you know, that they act out all the... What would I do for the hat? I don't know. If it comes up again, I'll try something random. So the way that I see it is that there's infinite informational space. And in that infinite informational space, you have pockets that arrange themselves into coherent sections. These pockets contain also what we would call minds or sub-minds of the larger mind. And they would create frameworks to operate within this tiny little bubble. Howdy, partner. They'll get better, I promise. I mean, I can't promise, but I'll try to make them better. Also, I'm definitely going to try and make them random, so that way even I can't anticipate what they are. Exactly. Yeah, I'll be laughing too. So, what happens, I think, with all of these substances and with all the meditative states and with all the other things that we're talking about, like astral projection and out of body and all of that stuff, I think what's going on is that you have these local pockets of coherence, just like in cymatics, that you have the different, coherent states, and then you have chaos, and then you have coherent state, chaos, coherent state. So these represent basically all the different vibrations that can arrange themselves into something that looks like a structure. If you're talking about an infinite mind informational space, that you also have experience inside of these bubbles. This experience arranges itself around the local bubble or within the framework of the internal bubble, and it needs to understand what are the regularities of that particular bubble. In our case, the world that is the way it appears is a three-dimensional space. 1 second. My beautiful significant other is very loud. So, I couldn't even hear myself think. Women, right? Okay, so, where was I? Right, so these local bubbles, they essentially represent a certain kind of structure. If minds arise within these bubbles, they need to find some way to represent what are the regularities that are happening within that internal bubbles. That's what happens, I think, to all the minds, for example, in our universe. And the coherent way to describe it is in terms of a three-dimensional space, or maybe four-dimensional space with some perception of passing change, which we call time. And when you start interacting with these substances or states, you essentially create either a higher vibration or a different kind of a vibration that starts oscillating in a way that resonates with a different part of the infinite informational space. And sometimes it will land in chaotic places, which will feel like, everything is crazy. And sometimes you would somehow randomly, or not so randomly, land in another local bubble that might be adjacent, might be really far. If you land in this new local bubble, it has a structure, it has coherence, but it's not the coherence you're used to, or the way that your mind used to looking at things in your local bubble. And then you clearly can recognize that something is happening that is coherent to itself, but not really connecting to what you understand and how things usually follow one another. This is what I think is happening in these spaces. So I think this is why asking if you can get to the other side of reality is less of a tenable way of looking at it, because there's no other side of reality. It's infinite. You want to describe coordinates in the mind space or in this infinite informational space. And I do think we'll get to a place, maybe even very soon, in which we'll be able to describe what these coordinates are. So you can think of the universe, instead of being space-time, you can think of the multiverse being space-time mind altogether. And you have coordinates along each and every one of them. And the second we're going to start playing with real ways of finding coordinates in the mind space is when you're going to be able to literally aim and land in different local bubbles, interact with them, understand the rules, download the rules, create world models that are coherent enough to interact with these rules, and then you can start maybe even evolving as a mind, not just in your local bubble, but in other local bubbles as well. And I think that's essentially what we're kind of reaching. Now, these are not new ideas and not my ideas. A lot of it is from Andrew Gallimore's first book, actually, Alien. Is it Alien Technologies? Today, I didn't drink my coffee yet. Hold on. Is it Alien Technologies? Hold on. Alien Information Theory. That's the first book. So a lot of it is from there, with some, you know, ornaments that I've hung myself. But most of it is based on what his work. So I would highly recommend this book as well. In any case, I do think, and by the way, the name of the organization that I cannot name because it starts with the name of the molecule, ending with the letter X. You can look it up, Imperial College in London, Extended State. That's exactly what they're interested in. To see if you can send people into these spaces long enough so they can actually acquire some ability to interact with the coherence of these other spaces, and to see if we can start mapping them in relationship to where we are. Okay, so I don't even know. Oh, it was due to your comment of, is there a way to connecting with the other side of reality? So I guess it also addresses that point. So thank you so much for the question. Great question, Sabih. By the way, do you mean like the food, Sabih? Because I love Sabih. Was there any cases where an individual didn't see the desired effect? Yes, but it's extremely rare, and I maintain that because it's just a matter of time. It's like a one-way street. Some people are having a hard time seeing it in the beginning. Not clear to me why that is yet, but it's a one-way street. Eventually, everybody sees it, and when you see it, you can't unsee it. You just see it for good now. Is there documentation how to perform the effects yourself? Absolutely. It's on the website that you see listed right under my name, codeofreality.com. You have the protocol in there and my email, so you can email me directly and ask questions. As someone who hasn't experienced the molecule, is the code like nothing else visually? Once again, guys, just going to remind you, if you want to come on the chat, you feel free to do so, but just drop me a message in the chat telling me what you want to talk about, and then I'll pull you up when I feel that it's relevant to the conversation. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. As someone who hasn't experienced the molecule, I'm going to read it again. Is the code like nothing else visually that is usually experienced on it? The answer is yes. I guess you meant to say, is it jarringly different than it is universally accepted as an anomaly? I guess, again, you can't have 100%, but I would say that most psychonauts would agree, if they see it, that it is different than anything that they have ever seen anywhere in the psychedelic space. So I think the answer is yes. I am excited for what you discovered is well-known. Wait, I am excited for what you've discovered is well-known information. I guess you want to say will become a well-known information? And thank you. Me and my girlfriend are trying to get a house in February before we buy the stuff to build the lasers. I'm so excited for the experience. And congratulations on your new house that is going to be coming. Everybody send blessings for them to get their dream house. We're going to work on collective manifestation here. This is real cyber revolution. Oh, yep. Yes, it is. Boris is saying, hey, Danny, I sent you another email. I would love to mail you one of my splatter paintings. You can review the visuals, and I can come on a simulation talk to tell you about it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I've finally answered all my emails 2 days ago, and the next morning I had 100 more. And today I have, I think, 150 more. So I'm going to find a system to answer all of them quickly. But I am browsing. So if you get, so this is a good time to maybe kind of think out loud with you guys. If you want to get my attention quickly, the first emails I answer, because they're the easiest to answer, is if there's a clear title that tells me what it's about, and it always shows me the first few lines of the whatever you're saying in the email. So if in the first line you kind of put the subject matter a little bit more succinctly, it's easier for me to know what it's about, and then I can jump into the email. Also, if the email is no more than one paragraph long when I open it, there's a lot more chances I'm going to answer it immediately. Something to consider. Clear title. The first line should have succinct information about what you're going to be talking about. And if you can keep it to one paragraph, there's a very high likelihood I'm just going to click on it, answer it, get it over with. So, something to consider. But, Bosch, we already spoke, so excited to read your next email for sure. What am I missing? 1 second. Aside from dropping you on your faces. 1 second. Jesus. ChatGPT novels allowed via email. Oh, definitely. No ChatGPT novels. That's already something that I've mentioned. Thank you so much, Sao Gang. I love this. This is amazing. Thank you for the roses. Something I mentioned in the chat is very important. No ChatGPT novels because I'm not going to read it. Because you didn't put any work in writing it, I'm not going to put any work in reading it. If ChatGPT told you something interesting, do the work, read the whole thing, summarize it for me in a paragraph so I see that a human wrote it, and I'll definitely engage with it. If you didn't do that, it's an uneven ground, and I'm not going to follow it. Love you. Okay. The Cosmic Road showed me some allegedly alien symbols recently. You should see if they are like what you see in the code. If you can be a little bit more specific, I don't know what the Cosmic Road is. I need to know why I am. Welcome to the club. I've been in that club since I was 5 years old. The lens of YouTube comments is more of a kaleidoscope. Interesting. Why is it cool to know dinosaurs existed? Would you not want to know dinosaurs existed? I want to know the history of everything. What is it referring to? Am I familiar with Tom Campbell? Yes. Somebody actually sent him all of my materials. We'll see how that goes. 1 second. Exactly. That's an interesting comment. We kind of approached it yesterday a little bit. I like this. Let's engage with it for 1 second. Mission High is saying, is the code made through... so I brought up the code. Thank you so much for more gifts, SAO. I appreciate you. Title gifter. I appreciate that. I brought up the code with a friend of mine. He is in his 80s. And his response was, is the code made through symbolism? If so, it's a phenomenon of a cerebral cortex which has bypassed the cerebellum and the medulla oblongata. Not that the concept is wrong so much as maybe local. The reason I disagree with that is because I think language is universal and you have to represent it somehow. This question still stands as to why it would be recognizable for beings of our caliber of development. Might be exactly for that reason, so we can recognize it, so we can understand that there's something more, so it will grab our attention, so we will try and do something with it. The real details of why that is are not clear. What is clear is that it's there and that it's real. So it's one thing to postulate if you don't have direct access to the experience of it, but we do have direct access to the experience of it. So everything else should bow to it and not the other way around. Reality determines what's going on, not what we think about it. And as I always quote Richard Feynman, if it disagrees with experiment, it is wrong. I think of it as octaves, like music and math. Wait, I want to go through your previous comments. I think of it as octaves, like music and math. It is. I think there's no space, and it's all in the same space, just different levels of octaves and vibrations. Yeah, but then the question, I understand what you're saying, but then the question still stands, what is that space and where it came from? So it doesn't really resolve the problem. It's just trying to consolidate everything into one neat place where you can say everything is this, but it doesn't actually do anything. Like, it's kind of equivalent to the statement, everything is everything, or everything is one, we're all one. Okay, now what? You know what I mean? You got it, Richard. So could ghosts be real and its consciousness with a strong connection? Wait, ghosts be real and its consciousness with a strong connection to a certain space, like a signal being a strong that so strong that it attracts a conscious mind to a certain point of coordinates. If I understand what you're asking, Chavez, yes. Yes. You have the equivalence of gravity in the mind space, and I think that equivalent of gravity in the mind space, or the equivalence, let's say the equivalence of mass in the mind space, is meaning. Things clump around meaning. If you go into, when you use machine learning and you ask some kind of an algorithm or a neural net to analyze a lot of data without telling it anything else about the data, slowly it trains itself to find common denominators between terms, and very quickly it would arrange the different words along however many n-dimensional space you allow it to arrange it around, and it would basically start putting all the months together, because even though it doesn't know what months are, it notices that the use of these words are always in correlation to one another in some way, i.e. meaning, and it would put all the months in one clump. It will put words associated with animal names in one clump without you teaching it to ever do that. I think that's the equivalent of gravity in the information or mind space. If I understood your question correctly. So ghosts would be some kind of a representation that has less of a instantiation in what we would call physical space, but they are still a coherent structure in the larger informational space. The only thing they lack is some kind of a connection to what we would call the electromagnetic force, which basically creates the separation between the particles. So it would be hovering in this in-between space of some sort. Obviously, if we want to talk about this seriously, some a little bit more rigorous work needs to be done to actually prove this stuff and test for it and all that stuff. But I think it's definitely doable if it's real. And I'm totally on board that it's very real. Thank you so much, KLGD. And yeah. Did you try Hypercube? What is that? Daniel Morris is saying, is the molecule the only psychedelic that has had your great results? It's the most coherent, but as I know mushrooms work, and I know Aya works as well. Tom Campbell is very much opposed to the use of psychedelics. What do you think about that? I don't think anything about that. I think that a lot of people have a lot of different opinions. That's all I think about that. Nathan is saying, what do you feel about the ancient languages, letters like Hebrew, Sanskrit, and the toroidal angles? I'm not sure what the question is, Nathan. Just commenting on your description of the bubbles in the infinite field. Oh, I see. Yeah, a little different. You can talk about them in terms of notes or wiggles, but you still have to describe what is actually wiggling. But yes, along the lines of that. One of the best streams to smoke. All right. Google Hypercube. No, I've never tried it. What is that? Leo from X is saying, by the way, it's hard to find your Twitter and Twitch from YouTube. I think making these links more in your face and fully encompassing would help your channel. I appreciate that. Thank you, Leo. When you go to my YouTube channel, doesn't it list all of them in the description? Like right under the channel's name? Having the coolest experience ever, aliens, ghosts, secret societies, lost civilization, simulation. Me too, man. I love this life. Okay, let's see what we got here. More people need to email Duncan. Yes, more people need to email Duncan. Please, Duncan. That would be amazing. Dude, I'm gonna give you the best interview with Duncan, or the other way around. It will be amazing. I promise. We're gonna go wild. Who is Duncan? Mandalox Cakes. Come on. Duncan Trussell, the one and the only. You should check him out if you don't know. I'm very jealous. Are you familiar with Midnight Gospel, the cartoon? Drawing recording of the symbols, Houston. You have it even in the trailer. If you look at the trailer in the beginning, not the one on TikTok, the one on YouTube. Go to Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts on YouTube. Dango Thoughts. The trailer, the full trailer is there, and you have the piece of paper in the beginning, and you can see the symbols on it. Gravitational inness. Ooh, that's strong. I'm gonna combine it. Thank you, Mandela's case. I'm gonna write it down. Gravitational inness. It goes right next to righteous Roombas, which was the previous #1 placeholder. Everything is awesome. Exactly. Was told I was blood cells within our eyes, looking directly into the black light close to. Oh wait, there's a bunch of comments that have. Aaron is in the house. How you doing, brother? I'm now only getting around to all the TikTok comments, so guys, just be patient. I'll go through most of them, I believe. Do I think there's a bias prior? No, because you can't make people see the exact same thing by implanting ideas in their heads. It doesn't work that way, especially not on the spirit molecule. Spirit molecule does what it does. It doesn't care about what you want, care, or been implied. In fact, this is actually one of the mysteries about the molecule, which it produces content that nobody has ever seen before, and therefore nobody can ever implant that idea in your head because it's not like anything else that anyone has ever seen before. So you definitely can't plant ideas. The spirit molecule is not like going into the weed space or anything like this. You can't, like, if I tell you something about birds, you might, maybe 1 in 100 see like a bird, but definitely not. Like, you're gonna see a lot of weird things. Birds is not gonna be one of them. And the fact that the code appears for everybody, we're talking in the thousands now, exactly the same way, ran in every possible way, in which you don't tell people, you do tell people, you tell people something else, and they still see what they're supposed to see. But also the fact that after you see it for yourself, without the need for anyone else to tell you anything else, you know immediately that you're looking at something real. Again, I will emphasize, it's just like looking at something like this. That's how real it is. It's not like, am I seeing it? No, it's this real. That's why it's different. We're from different planets? For sure we are. Dragonfly 611, which is one of my omens. Checking for new content. I appreciate you too, SAO, gang member VR. That's a great name. We need to make Danny go AI to read emails. Yeah, do they have that? I have Superhuman. You know Superhuman, the service? It's great. It's amazing, by the way. Super expensive, but it's worth it. Like, it's the one, that and motion calendars, the two things that I'm splurging on every month because it makes my life so much easier. Superhuman and motion. And no, this is not a paid promotion. They're just amazing. And one of them is a calendar. The other one is an email service. And Superhuman has this option that basically summarizes the email right away on the top. But considering the subject matter, if somebody took the time to write, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 paragraphs, the details of what they're saying is really what matters, right? So I prefer if they would do the work and summarize what they want to say in one paragraph versus some AI summarizing it kind of in the vicinity of. How many hits? Stevo, go to codeofreality.com. Again, it's codeofreality.com, and you have the protocol there. So it will describe all of that stuff. SAO is saying, looking directly into a black light close to bulb, I used to see what looks like living organisms. Yeah, it very much looks like that. It looks like you're looking at an organic matter made out of this code. I keep saying code, but some people see it for like, I realize now, see it for like 20 minutes, and then they go, I don't know, I don't see code. And then they describe to me the code. But I realize it's a semantics thing. Some people they see just language and they don't think of code. The code can be language. Like they don't think of that. So when I say code, I literally mean like letters and numbers, like running all over the place. And they make these structures that look very organic, by the way. So that sounds, and one of the new lines of experiments that I'm going to be starting soon is going to involve a lot of different kinds of lights and look at them, interesting, in different ways. And I think we're onto something. At some point I'll explain what just happened. But it's going to include a lot of different kinds of lights, and it's going to include, the different angles that we're looking at lights and all of that stuff. So don't spam Duncan Trussell. I don't want anybody to spam Duncan Trussell on my behalf. He's not going to like me in the end. Blood says inside your eyes. Well, it depends on the coherence of it. People will always try and explain things away. I wouldn't be so sure. The white rabbit with the matrix in the back, that's a great picture. I love it. How does the frequency vibration tie to the framework you have seen? You mean specifically how does the 650 nanometers ties to the framework? Is that what you're asking, Nico? 650 nanometer is crystal, so extremely stable in frequency. Wait, what do you mean it's crystal? What is crystal? The images, yeah. Well, so what I can say is that they don't seem alive, they are alive. There is no spoon, exactly. Same code that each one sees, yes. I love birds too. Did you say bird? Oh, you shared a live with Duncan Trussell? That's amazing. Well, Duncan, if you're watching, we love you, man. You're the best. Lasers are vibration crystals. I never heard of this before. Do you mean to say that... I'm having a hard time trying to map this on reality. Duncan is amazing. I'm glad that a lot of people agree here. And to your question, Artifact, these images are alive. They are part of this larger structure that basically registers information everywhere and makes up everything. It's absolutely alive. And to your question, Nico, what's up with the elf meme or mechanical... elves? Yeah, what's up with them? I don't... Usually don't ask such general questions. I don't know what you mean by that. Or do you mean it like as a joke, like a comedian goes, what's up with stuff? What inspired the idea to do the laser experiment to begin with? It took years of figuring it out, and that's what the movie is going to be about. So I'll reserve it for the movie. Cheers. How can we make life better by understanding simulation theory? Well, I'm proposing not a theory. I'm saying that we can actually probe this actually. Like we can experimentally verify it, which is different than postulating a theory. But on a functional level, if you start interacting with the external parts of the code, then maybe you can bend or even change the laws of physics to allow us to travel more in space with greater ease. That would be one possibility. Maybe change something about our minds. One of the ideas that I've had recently that I think is actually what's going on, what's up, Lindsay, is that if you can't interact with it conceptually in your mind, it will simply not appear on your desktop. You will not be able to do it. So unless you can literally experience certain parts of what we would call the laws of physics, you won't be able to fold them into something that is functional. Can you try to get on Kill Tony? What am I going to do on Kill Tony? It seems so out of left field. Throwing splatter painting under the laser. Oh yeah, that would be great. Looking at the code is very similar to looking what crystal ball or black mirror to gain information about future events. Interesting. I don't think you can do that with the code, but that's just me. Are the codes seen similar to any scientific equations, error correction codes? No, like you mean like James Gates's idea, discovery? No, it doesn't look like that at all. Yeah, it's hard for me to say what we can do with it still. That's very much pending. I've heard if you wrap copper wire around quartz and shoot a laser through it, you can charge the crystal. Not sure if it is true, maybe fake news. Charge it with what? Electricity, you mean? Do crystals get charged? I guess I don't know enough about condensed matter in that way. Mechanical elves are a common entity people see at the beginning of a molecule trip. Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate you. Merkabo Einstein. That sounds like a great handle for something. Artifact is saying, I played with laser and crystal. Saw holograms of these scripts in the salt crystals. Now that sounds amazing. One more thing to add to the experimentation. That vibrates between charges, anode and cathode. What do you mean? So you use lasers, but you don't know how they work? It's a diode with a crystal. The light. Oh, okay. I understand. Coming from the light. No. But okay. I thought you mean that the light itself is a crystal. That's why I was confused. When you have a drop, something I actually want to check. It just reminded me of something. Because one of the things I'm trying to do now is actually to create the Zeeman effect. And there was something about this, the suborbital creation. And what the main thing I was trying to figure out is what would be the best positioning of the magnets. If it would just be around the diode, or it's going to be around the surface we're projecting. And obviously we're going to try all of this, but I'm constantly trying to see if I can theoretically kind of nail what exactly is going to be happening there. No, that I understand. Also, I don't know how to say your handle because it's just 2 emojis, which is cool. But so, for example, so that experiment essentially is the idea. There is that when you excite the electrons, and when they drop and produce all the photons of the same coherent frequency. What I want to do is I want to put a very powerful magnet around it and see if I can squeeze them with the Zeeman effect and see if I can see any departures of the code. So I wonder if actually the material that we're using, because I know they make lasers from different materials. Most of them are, actually forget this part. What do they use in most of them? Most lasers. Base. Let's see. So you have the solid state yttrium, aluminium. Okay. Oh, ruby lasers. That's what I was thinking. Which is, but there was one that they do use gas, right? So that's the part that I feel is actually going to be probably easier to use with the Zeeman effect. And I don't know if they actually sell them to the public. Let me check. Oh, they do. I don't know why I never thought about just checking. It was always kind of like an idea hovering for the future. But I think we're getting closer to actually doing these experiments, so this is a good time to do this. Nico is saying magnetic field strength dies off with cube distance to put them between the beam. Oh, you mean about the distance of putting it from the laser? Well, it depends on the strength, right? So then I have to calculate the exact distance. But I think from what I read at least, 3.3 Teslas is enough to create the Zeeman effect in, at least in 650 nanometers, in that frequency. What's up, Jason? But this is actually a really good time to dial this in, because could it be the signature of a manufacturing company in China etched into the laser beam? You know what's funny is that I actually thought about that, but no, it cannot, because when you move the light, the symbols are not moving with the light. If it will be in the light or etched on the glass, then it would move with it, but it's not. It's stays in the surface, and when you move the light, it's just revealing more of it, basically. Why do you trust that what Google says about anything important? You mean when you're talking about buying a product? It's not that difficult to trust Google, because you can either get the product or not. That would be hilarious. You know what I did see one time in the laser, which was very not helpful when I was showing it to somebody. I literally saw the Ninja Turtles like arranged like from the top to the bottom of the door, and they were just like, you know, their smile, and then just like from the top to the bottom. And I showed it to a friend of mine. He's like, I see it. Like straight up, I see Ninja Turtles. Not helpful at all when you're trying to do something of a serious gravitas. All cathode ray tubes were focused like that, with a coiled yoke around the neck. Like what? You're talking about? Oh, you're just talking about the old way to do lasers? So now, actually, to your question, yeah, I'm not an expert in how lasers. I know in a rudimentary way how lasers work. So what we said with the excitation with the electrons, they all drop to the lowest nearest orbital, and they'll release photons of the same frequency. And then I know in the newest lasers, they basically have two mirrors. One of them, there's like, I don't remember, like 5 or 1% opening, right? And then you have this like basically like an amplification of the signal of the beam, and eventually some of it comes out, and then it's being focused. That's all I know about the lasers. I don't know the specifics of exactly how they. I know that there's something about the coiling and all that stuff, but I actually thought that the new lasers also do that. Yeah, I definitely don't know too much of the specifics of how the lasers are arranged inside. That's all I know. But I guess this is actually very important to know, because if I'm going to be dealing with the specifics of how the magnetic field hits the diode, at least, I need to understand what is it influencing inside. So that's super important. Ordering something from Google is not important. Oh, I beg to differ. I mean, you can get a pillow now from Amazon in 3 hours. I think that's very important. Did you find the code accidentally, or were you actively looking? No, I was actively looking. It took me years to do this. Also, love the handle. I love that it says meow meow and then potato cat in the subtitle. This is amazing. Important meaning. Wait, important meaning how ruby lasers work, or the theory of electrons. Important meaning how ruby. You mean it's important to know that? Cathode ray tube is providing dielectricity. Got it? Okay. Focus attention causes the dielectric field to self-align and spin toroidally. Interesting. Thank you for that quick education, Nathan. Appreciate that. I have a single photon quantum cascade laser, but it's in the IR range. So we can't see it. What inspired me to look for the laser? A set of experiences on the molecule that were so realistic, they were way outside a bound of possibility that would just be in my head. That's essentially what it was. Not the laser. I didn't know what the laser was going to be. There's going to be the laser. Just trying to answer whether the space of the spirit molecule is real or not. That was the main driver behind me trying to figure it out. Okay. Think Merkaba is really possible? I think so too. Einstein-Rosen bridge, also known as wormholes, yes. They would actually probably love the story if you get cold. If I got cold. Who would love the story? Aaron Ra? Who's Aaron Ra? You guys are enlightening me with so much information that I'm not aware of right now. Hey brother, I'm busy today. Hope you are well. I will watch later. Good to see you, Q Wiggy. Jason Harrison is saying, have you tried with lights down a smoky, likely not our specific syntax? Wait, do you think that the code would also be understood by aliens the same way we think aliens would understand mathematics, but likely not our specific syntax? Wait, what? Oh, wow, my brain just mixed two different messages. That's crazy. Have you tried with lights down a smoky room, like if the code show in the smoke? You can't do that, Jason, because it's random scattering. So I did try this for the kick of it, but I knew it's not gonna work because with smoke you have random distribution. You can't bounce enough photons in the same direction, so you can't see anything coherent. It will just pass through it. So yeah. So the reason you see the beams in the dark when you put smoke is because all photons have to do is to hit one molecule of the smoke to bounce back to show you that there's a beam there. But it's not enough to bounce enough from the same direction to actually show you a coherent image of what's there, which is what the wall is providing. Do you think that the code would also be understood by aliens? I think aliens are the ones that put it there. But I think you're asking if there's a chance that this code is basically universal. I think any species with enough intelligence would understand it is some kind of a language, and then from there you have to kind of decipher according to a lot of other parameters what it might be, how it operates, how it relates to the space that you're coming from, and all that good stuff. But yeah, I do think it refers to some universal function, which I think is what you're asking. Have you, Ambient Glass is saying, have you entertained the thought that the code might not be for our reality and that you are looking into another realm, that the code is for with the frequency? Yeah, possible, of course. One time but it would definitely be also related to you in some form because you can see it. One time I blew smoke in front of my spread laser projector that shoots 100 lasers. The smoke on the spirit molecule was like a floating crystal hologram in the smoke. Oh, interesting. No, I've never seen that, but that sounds really cool. Wait, what? It asks from the Borgs. The last time I did Terence McKenna's silent darkness method, Entity told me two main things. To use a prism and put the rainbow into my eyes. Rainbow? And to learn Japanese. Really? That's amazing. What's up, Marty King? We're talking about the fact that I'm claiming that I found proof that we live in a simulation. The code hasn't told me anything yet. Ancient, is it? Ancient Lament. Oh, Ancient Lament. Right. See, my brain missed the L. So first of all, good to see you here. So far, it hasn't told me anything. Didn't tell me anything, but we know it's there, and I think that's enough of a message for now for me. The scripts were seemingly affected by electromagnetic radiation. Was there interference? I'm not sure what you're asking. So the electromagnetic field is light, and everything radiates it. So like literally everything, even you right now. And then are you asking if there was an so I think the short answer is, if I understand your question correctly, the code cannot be changed no matter what. It's not departing from its actual function no matter what you do outside of it, which is actually one of the conundrums and one of the more interesting things about it too. It just got visible that way. Maybe the code is a live feed of information projecting from higher dimensions into our 3 dimensions. Possible, yeah. But I think the reason it's recognizable is because it's designed to be. Yes, but what is the diode? What does it do? How is it made? Yeah, so the details of that, aside from what I already mentioned, I don't really know. Wait, so if it bounces off the code, is the code like the smoke? I see what you're asking. I think that with physical matter, there's a different attribute to it. And when light interacts with it, the code that exists in the physical matter, even though it also exists in the air, bounces off of it in a more coherent manner because there's more light coming back from the same direction because of the flat surface. And because of that, you can see the code in it. If you could somehow bounce enough light in from every part of the air in a way that is coherent, not just to one direction, but to the shapes that appear in the air, which would be, computationally, it would be crazy, then you would see it like everywhere in the air, I would say, yeah. But as I'm sure you know, because it sounds like you're pretty technically minded, doing that, creating an actual hologram, is actually at this point to some degree possible under the right conditions, but it's very difficult. And I'm not talking about like a hologram like on a flat surface. I'm talking about a 3-dimensional hologram like in Star Wars. Yes, that's possible. There's a company in San Francisco that did this. But the conditions are very, very like specific. You have to bounce the light in a way, you can look it up. I don't remember exactly what but a lot of calculations involved. So you have to like exactly calculate all the different points of light and how they should hit every surface, and then you have to use mirrors and you have to calculate all of that. It's very complicated, and you're projecting an image there. You're not bouncing light off of something that is already there. That's like a whole other level. It's possible theoretically, yeah, but it's not something you can do in the house. There's no way. Pirate is saying, all of my studies of quantum mechanics lead me to fully believe in we are in a sim. All of my studies of, oh, you said it twice, especially the double slit experiment. I actually don't know why people always think the double slit experiment means that we live in a simulation, even though I am claiming we live in a simulation, and the original idea that I had around this experimentation was the double slit experiment, and I still don't see how logically one deducts that the double slit experiment automatically means we live in a simulation. I actually don't understand the argument there at all. It's true that something happens to the wave function in the presence of a measuring device that is activated, but it's not like because you see it, it collapses, right? There's still a mystery there, but it's just that for me, there's no direct correlation there whatsoever. But I am claiming both are related, but not in the way that I think you mean it or most people mean it, which is interesting, actually. I thought the double slit is a misconception and not what people think. It is. It is. However, I will add to that is that so first of all, the first thing to say is that there is a mystery there. It's not what most people think, but there is a mystery there. And to add to that, Dean Radin created a double slit experiment version of the experiment in 2015, and then replicated it a few times since. That was specifically designed to test if a conscious observer will influence the wave function, and he discovered with enough of a standard deviation percentage that it does. They tested this in all kinds of ways. You can look it up. Dean Radin double slit experiment. So, funny enough, it is true, but not because of what most people think. It's really funny. Okay, so if you're not looking, is it still there? You mean the code? I mean, you're asking a deeper question than what I've discovered. I think it is. I think it is, yes. I think it is objective in the sense that we mean objective, yes. The particles act as a wave if there's no observer, or a particle if there's a measurement. Yes, I just wouldn't put the parentheses as the observer. That's I think the confusion, because you also see it, the observer, when it is in the state of being a wave. It's right there on the surface. You see both. You, the observer, see when it's a wave and see when it's a particle. So it's definitely not you who's collapsing it. It's the device. And that is a mystery. How does it know? I actually think it's not that big of a mystery. I mean, it's a mystery of what is the technical explanation of it. But if you understand that the wave function is not collapsing, that just doesn't make any sense. It still exists. And whatever the particle is, that will be my explanation, it is part of this larger wave that exists in a multidimensional space, in a higher dimensional space. For you, thank you, Jamie, I appreciate you. From your branch of the multiverse, it appears as that one particle. But the particle is the wave in the larger scale of things. The wave knows. The reason that even when you shoot every particle one at a time, it's still under the right conditions, it still produces it knows how to be that it's supposed to be a wave, is that the pattern of the wave is there all the time. And statistically, the more particles you're going to shoot, they're going to behave like one element of the wave. So nothing collapses. The real mystery happens when you have the misconception of collapse. There is no collapse. This is why I think the Copenhagen interpretation doesn't make any sense and never made sense. But that's just me. Double slit leads to sim theory due to just-in-time computation, conscious or not. Wait, let me read this again. Double slit leads to sim theory due to just-in-time computation. Just-in-time. What do you mean by just-in-time, Cal? Just so I understand. Then you're getting confirmations. What am I getting confirmations on? It does make sense. You need a processor. Wait, guys, can you be a little bit more specific? I am truly interested in what you guys are saying, but it's a little bit too general the way you're commenting on it. Imagine that I'm only reading your comment and no other comments, and see if you can fold the information into that comment still. I think it's only there when your brain observes it and turns it into electric signals. Sure, so what is there when your brain is not observing it, according to what you believe? Or according to what makes sense to you philosophically? Real question, by the way. Manda loves cakes, loves my rants. Appreciate you. Well, it's because the simulator's CPU is saving resources, rendering only particles that are... Yeah, I guess it's because there's a lot of other explanations that would fit that criteria. See, I see what you're saying, but there's other ways to explain it that would make just as much sense. That's why I'm saying it's not automatically leads to that for me. light particles don't exist. Computation of where the wave collapses. So, would you equate decoherence with computation, Kel? No, I understand what you're trying to say, Pirate, about the rendering. I'm saying that when you have competing explanations that are as likely, then it doesn't mean A equals B automatically. If A can be equal A, B, C, D, and E equally, then it doesn't mean A automatically. Oh, of course you can come as a guest. We'll probably have another 10 minutes so you can fill out the time. I can't pull you up. You have to request. To compute something, you need a brain. Well, not necessarily. You need some kind of a computational system. Computers don't have a brain and they compute all the time, right? Text-based, communicate. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to do my best to also understand what it means. You can actually, yeah, exactly. The switch off, there is an electricity on the line, but the light is off its potential. Yeah, the brain is acting like a processor. But I think what it's processing is a signal that already exists. So I'm not so sure that what we call the objective reality doesn't exist. I think there is an overlay perception of it by the local group nervous system that arises around the information that exists in these spheres. But I don't think it doesn't exist when the observers are not looking. I think that's an anthropocentric mistake. Again, just my thoughts, of course, but I'm gonna read a few. Oh, there we go. Gonna bring you on, Pirate. How you doing?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hey, how's it going?
Amazing. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? Okay, so I wanted to explain, what I was trying to say.
Please.
So I think you pretty much understood it, but so basically, if there is right, if it is in a simulation, right, it's going to be a massive computer or some computational processor. And a simulation that has the resolution of our reality, so much detail, right? There's forests that have nobody in them, trees falling with nobody here to see them or to hear them, right? So my belief is that in order to save resources on that computational processing, that's where you have particles acting as a wave, right? A wave is not, it's not as accurate as a particle. It's kind of like a guess. It's kind of like an abstract. It's like a blurry fuzz,
Well, it's not an abstract. It's a structure. It's a more diffuse structure of some substrate.
Sure, but it's not as well defined in XY. Like if you look at a particle's XYZ position, right? A particle is in one exact spot.
Yeah, it doesn't have one set of coordinates. Correct.
Right. So I think that in order to save resources, things that aren't observed, aren't measured, right? Like an empty forest, right? If a tree falls in the empty forest.
No, I understood everything you're saying. You're talking about just like in a video game. When the simple way of describing it is, if you walk in a video game and if you're not looking in that direction, it's not being rendered, and only when you look, there's an actual rendering. My point is that specifically with the double slit experiment, the way it's conducted classically, this is already a lot of steps that people are taking to try and make it fit a certain kind of worldview. I'm saying that from first principles, it wouldn't be the first thing I would jump to, right? So like, just as an example, it makes just as much sense from a classical standpoint, from just like if you want to think about classical physics or quantum mechanics, that if the world is what we call physical, forget about the computational theory right now, and you have this, you have these quantum fields of some sort, and their interactions are the wiggling of their interactions are the one to give rise to what seems like particles in a particular space. Which, by the way, I'm sure you know that the quantum field theory is basically the most accepted theory at the moment, right? Because it has the most predictability power at the moment, right? So in terms of quantum field theory, it makes perfect sense. You have some state of the ultimate wave function that always exists eternally, and it contains all the quantum fields. And when you have an interaction or an intersection between some quantum fields that give rise to some occurrence, in other words, everything that you see around you, and a decoherence happens, in other words, when something decouples from being part of this ultimate wave and becomes only part of a slice of one reality, then that instance of becoming a part of that reality registers as the particle that you see. And I agree, there's some mystery there as to why, when certain kind of potential registration of whatever it's supposed to be there, why all of a sudden it becomes that particle versus another state in which it is not the particle and is still part of the wave. But notice that in the case, there's a confusion here, because the waving of the light is not the waving of the wave function. That's the confusion that people always have. That's the big misconception, that the wave function is not light. The wave function is some kind of a hyperdimensional structure that contains all the possibilities of all the quantum fields. So you have to separate them, because the waving of the wave function is not what you see on the screen detected. What you see detected is the waving of what we would call the electromagnetic field, one of the fields. And I think that's where the misconception happens. Now, I agree with you, by the way. This is why I started saying it's actually kind of like weird, because I agree with both of your statements. I both agree that this is a simulation, and I both agree that the double slit experiment can help us think of it in like how it can lead us there. All I'm saying is that you do have to do a little bit of work to get to our B from A, and it doesn't go A, therefore B. That's all I'm saying. So, and which is like a very kind of like, you know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree that it's not, just because one thing, doesn't mean the other. But then you also have to consider, right, when, if you look at the double slit experiment, like the emitter, let's say the particle emitter, if you think of it as a gun, right? Mm-hmm. And if you make the decision halfway through the particle or whatever you're emitting on its way to the screen, at the back, if you make the decision halfway through, so after it's been emitted or shot out of the emitter or the gun, but before it's landed on the screen, depending on if you choose to measure it or not measure it, right, which is the delayed choice experiment of the double slit variety, will determine whether or not that particle was emitted as a particle or as a wave from the beginning.
Right, and what I'm saying...
What I mean to,
yeah, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
So what I mean to say is that if you delay the choice till after it's emitted but before it hits the screen, if you choose to observe it, it will have been shot out of the emitter as a particle, even if you chose after it's already been emitted, it's been a particle, and it's always been a particle. Whereas if you choose to not measure it, it was emitted as a wave, and it's always been a wave. So technically almost like going backwards through time.
Right, and it's exactly where I think the biggest confusion happens. So one of them is the conflation between the wave function and the waving of light, the quantum electromagnetic field. The other one is exactly this, which is it isn't a particle. It is not, and it is not a wave either. It is some kind of a structure that we do not understand, but it is not either of them. And also, it's not correct to call it a wavicle or any of that, because it's just not these things, right? And to be specific, what I think is happening, I'm sure you're familiar with the quantum ghost. How do you pronounce this? I don't know if it's quantum ghosting or quantum ghost imaging. I forget what it's called. But anyways, the experiment is you project a laser. There's a beam splitter. Okay, so you have origin of laser, beam splitter, okay? Then the light will go through the beam splitter. It will split here, go to a screen, and the other beam will continue going straight, and it will hit a screen. So on this screen, you have an image, which is, by the way, where the big misconception of quantum entanglement looking like a yin yang came from, by the way, that there was an image here of a yin yang. Okay, it's not. It doesn't look like a yin and yang symbol. It was a yin and yang symbol. So the beam that goes straight, it hits it, and the mystery is, which is exactly what he said about seemingly going back in time. Okay, and then the beam that goes from here somehow would know that there's a symbol here, and then it would project it here, which is the ghost part, right? So the question, from a classical standpoint, and when I mean classical in this case, I even mean quantum mechanical, right? We're not talking about right now string theory or anything fancy, okay? So the mystery is, how can it be that a light that is going through a temporal and spatial dimension this way somehow knows here what this was? How can it know that? Well, according to the explanation that I'm offering, which again is not really my explanation, but it's kind of the one that I'm adopting the most, which is that the wave function registers all information all the time. And this is why we can observe, even from the most classical point of view, in standard particle physics, we know that all particles are time symmetric. We know that for a fact, right? And they don't care what direction of time they're moving. In fact, some particles are basically the version of themselves moving backwards in time. It's all it is. So for us, because of some big mystery, because of the arrow of time, it seems like it shouldn't be plausible that things would be registered backwards in time. But at this point, there's actually very strong evidence to suggest that that is the natural state of affairs. So I actually don't think there's a mystery there. So like the reason that the ghost picture works is because the wave function registers that information. It is literally one object. So it knows what's here because it is one object. Particles, they're just an occurrence that appears to us from a three-dimensional perspective. Does that make sense, or?
Yeah, I follow what you're saying.
Yeah. I wonder where would that, for you, and I understand everything you're explaining, where does this explanation holds less water than the image that you depicted for you?
I don't think it holds any less water. So
Okay.
what you're explaining with this quantum ghost is very similar to the what's it called? The delayed choice.
Exactly.
Quantum.
That's
It's
exactly.
called the quantum lottery. So the delayed choice one, where I think it's the exact one that you're describing. That not only does it go backwards through time, it's that when you first emit the particle and send it through a beam splitter, and then because one path of one of the beams is shorter than the other, then it's basically like going backwards through time, which makes me think about what Einstein was saying about that the past, present, and future are happening all simultaneously, and they all exist simultaneously, and there is no past, present, and future, and all of time exists and occurs at the exact same time. So I don't think that what you're saying holds any less water. I think based on the different interpretations, I like either the Copenhagen interpretation. I also like the many worlds. The problem I have with many worlds is just how intensive it is on a processor.
Well,
Right?
not if you think that the processor doesn't have a limitation of computation, because it's by definition an infinite space. Well, the problem that I have with the Copenhagen interpretation is that it postulates, by definition, that's what it postulates, which is it just postulates a general, the waving is of pure probability, and I don't know what that means. That's an incoherent concept. Probability of what? The definition of probability is something occurring at a certain frequency, right? So what is it that is occurring? If you want to say pure probability, I think it's where people just get a little bit too lost in the math, and then they forget that it has to apply to something real. In other words, in the words of David Deutsch, you can't have something that isn't real influencing something that is real. That doesn't make any sense.
So when I think about it, what it's a probability of, it's a probability of, if you think of a wave and a particle, and that particle has to be defined by the wave function. Therefore, that wave function should have a list of all different coordinates of where that particle could be. The probability is simply a probability that particle is in that spot as defined by the wave function, right? It could be here or it could be
But what
here.
is the wave function? Because we're talking about physics, not mathematics, right? What is the wave function? Which is something that when you press down, and believe me, I read a lot of accounts because it was really bugging me, and I was convinced, and I was convinced that there's something I don't understand, which is much more likely, right? Because I'm not a physicist. So I went and I read a few technical papers, and then I watched a bunch of interviews specifically with physicists that talking about this stuff, and I listened very carefully. And it's always the case that they really get lost in the weeds, and they don't realize they're walking, well, they're doing a random walk. They're very Brownian. They forget that they're physicists. So they're supposed to be talking about something that is real, and they always do a circular argument of like, well, it describes exactly what you said, describes the probability of the particle. Yeah, but that's not the question. The question is, what is that wave? That's the question. And that's where I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of a different way to describe it, but basically the wave being the wave of potentiality of
what?
Basically describing not only just where a particle is, maybe it would include information such as what distance the particle is heading, what speed it's going at, but just the wave function being a mathematical function, really.
And what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean in physical terms?
In physical terms,
that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
I think it's not describable in physical terms.
Then it should not be part of physics. That's my only point. So basically, I'm totally open to the possibility that even the entirety of all the mathematical space is real, right? Because it's entertained by a physical object, which is the brain. So you have to have some. So, okay, do you for example agree with Max Tegmark that the universe at bottom is mathematics?
I think it's information. Whether I think it can be explained by mathematics, I don't know if I would describe the universe as mathematics.
Okay, so I'm in the same camp. But when I'm hearing the Copenhagen interpretation, I'm hearing early echoes of where Tegmark lands at the end. It's kind of like the precursor to making that argument, which is that it's pure probability, and then I think what is being imported there, which is the layman does not really understand what that really means, but when you interact with it enough, as far as calculations, you have an intuition of it, a better intuition of it, and you start to understand what that really means. I think, and this is just my suspicion, it's actually the other way around. What happens is a researcher, especially an expert that's been studying something for 40 or 50 years, they get too close to the subject matter, and then they actually start conflating their intuition with how familiar it feels for them to talk about these things concretely, and they forget that they are abstractions. They are not the thing that is actually operating as what we call the physical space. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would agree. Okay. Let me give another shot to speaking about what I like about the Copenhagen interpretation.
Sure, go ahead.
So if you look at something kind of like,
I'm listening, by the way. I'm just throwing something away. Keep going.
If you think about something like the movie The Butterfly Effect, where it's not just a list of, it's not just the coordinates.
Where the title of the film had nothing to do with the butterfly effect, with the content of the film had nothing to do with the butterfly effect.
But rather than thinking of particles and where the coordinates are, I think of it more like if you kind of think of the speed of light being, the in a video game, the frames per second, basically being the frames per second of the universe.
Right.
I would think of the waves not only just being where every particle is and where it's going, but something more like, as you approach a decoherence in the Copenhagen interpretation, you kind of get close to a set of realities, a set of things that have happened. So, like in the butterfly effect, some events happened only in certain timelines, if you will. And there's also that degree of randomness to different parts of our reality, right? Some things have some randomness built into it. So I think that the wave would be a probability of where a lot of that randomness falls, but also in some kind of key events, right? Maybe this person did this person did this, but also, these random particles are here, these random particles are here. Does that make sense?
Yes, but then I would ask you, why would you put the emphasis on any particular event and not just postulate that it's always splitting constantly, and you don't need to think about computational power if you have infinite space into which it can unfold. So literally every little instance of interaction just branches out into infinite possibilities that combines eventually into the ultimate occurrence of everything that is possible. Which is essentially, but like really, this is what the Stephen Wolfram's Rule-Yad really is, which is the kind of like the graph of all the possible rules that unfold through all the possible worlds, which makes sense, and they can prove it mathematically at this point, and it kind of ties to everything else that we know about field theory and the field equation, Einstein's field equations. Like, you can derive everything from that. So at least mathematically, it's coherent. So I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be that. I think that ultimately, so first of all, I really appreciate this because it's a fun little rabbit hole. I just think that ultimately, when we come back home, the full circle of Interstellar, right? When we come back behind the library, the cash value of whether it was worth going on this infinite trip was, can we bring something home that we can do something with? And that's kind of where I land with this. And I think that at this point we can. It's just that we have to kind of dial these things back and not forget that even though the person is not the one influencing the double slit experiment, or it does according to Dean Radin, but that's a separate subject. But the fact that we are experiencing something versus everything is a very important data point. And I can completely understand why science brushed it under the rug forever, because how do you even begin to talk about this mathematically, right? We don't even know what it is. But I think this is why one of the things I'm putting forth with what I'm claiming to have discovered is that experience, it's not ultimately all there is, but it is a huge component of what the thing is. In other words, the redness of red is not just the frequency of the light of depth of 650 nanometers. The redness of it is a fundamental quality of reality. Or the spectrum along which the experiences of red and all the other colors exist is part of the tapestry of space, which is a very nuanced little point, but it is different than panpsychism, in that it's not a component in the universe, it is the universe. Literally, whatever the universe is, largely is experience, and the extrapolations that these experiences sometimes make about their immediate local group or environment are the derived factor, not the real one. Or, in other words, it's still real because it's postulated, but it is not the thing that is really affecting the larger scale operation of everything. It is actually the experiential part of it.
I agree with you. In fact, now I see what you're saying now, and I would agree that when I measure in the double slit experiment, I'll agree with you that I'm not going to be the one that is going to be collapsing the wave function, Rather, maybe I would look at it like all of the conscious observers or all of the measurements going on in reality at the same time when, when they're all making measurements or observations, everyone is kind of, it's collapsing for everyone, and kind of maybe even linking everyone and all of these different quantum realities together into one cohesive one. So I'll agree with you that it's not me who is, causing that decoherence, but rather everybody kind of experiencing it together, which forms the reality. But I got a question for you.
Sure.
So I would agree that there is infinite space, as we know the universe is ever expanding. But you said that even with infinite space, you don't have to worry about computation. How do you think that we don't have to worry about computation just because we have infinite space? Because even if you have space, you still need the energy to compute.
I'm talking about in the context of the multiverse, not the universe. That's why, because it separates itself into a new universe every single time. Yeah. So there's one idea. So there's two guiding principles that I try to focus on that really help me stay somewhat focused in this very confusing space. One of them is the fact that, so it's basically Wolfram's idea that you have this infinitely unfolding space, and you always land eventually on what the rule yet dictates. So okay, let's be specific. So I don't know if do you know anything about Wolfram's work or not at all?
No, I haven't read about him.
Okay,
No.
so Stephen Wolfram, he's a physicist, he's a technologist, he's a business person, and recently he developed this physics frame in the last few years that basically utilizes computational graphs to show how the entirety of everything can arise from these graphs, okay? And then he has different graphs to describe different functionalities inside of the infinite space. One of them is the causal graph, which is just a simple computational graph, which means by this rule, if you see this node of ABC, every time you see A, so just like a Turing machine, see A, transform into B, so on and so forth, and it unfolds according to that one rule. So you have a branching out. Hypergraph describes the occurrence of all the hyper edges in the causal graph on every step along the way. So it connects like in a multi-dimensional space. It would be equivalent to quantum physics if we want to equate it to physics. And then there's something called the Rulliad. And he has a few more graphs, but at the end of all this, shenanigans, you have the Rulliad. The Rulliad is the graph of all rules. What's interesting about the Rulliad is that essentially it is responsible to dictate what rules will be on every step of the computation. So each node of the Rulliad, just to be clear, is an occurrence of possible universes. That's how big the Rulliad is. So every step along the way of the Rulliad, every node describes the state of affairs of the rule through which all the universes on that level will evolve. So it's I don't know what you want to call it, but the multiverse of the multiverse. I don't know, hamsterverse, whatever you want to call it. But basically that's how big it is, right? What's interesting is that the rules also evolve according to logical rules. So if this rule came now, it will also dictate the next possible set of rules, and so it evolves. Here's the interesting thought, which is why I'm telling you all this. What he discovered, or at least that's what they kind of see in their analysis, is that you can have the exact same physical laws looked at from a different point from the Rulliad, and they will look like different laws of physics. So if I'm here on the Rulliad and there's an alien civilization right here on the Rulliad on a different part of the graph, the laws of physics are the same. But the observer is now looking from this set of rules, looking back on this set of rules, looking back on this set of rules. So when you're looking back at the ultimate rule, depending on how far in your horizon you can see, your laws of physics will literally seem and therefore be experienced as a completely different set of laws of physics. Also, it's interesting because if you follow this logic, eventually you might be able to get to the ultimate rule. which is the rule that gave rise to all the possible rules, which is kind of interesting because it's the holy grail, right? But that element really made me pause because, for example, in the space of the molecule, it really does seem like even though you see coherent structures, they seem to be following not different laws of physics, just different logic of the laws of physics. And I find this very compelling. So I'm using this as one of my guidelines basically. And the other one was that ultimately, if we want to look at the ultimate trajectory of all the possible theories, whatever we want to say about if we are interested in like the ultimate state of affairs, which doesn't necessarily mean that everybody are, but it has to include this one component of giving rise to itself. And this I see is never included in any discussion. It's always some kind of a linear thinking about what preceded and proceeded what. And I think that even in the block universe idea, you still have the same problem of not including the component of there's not even a postulation is what could possibly be the initial state that gave rise to itself, or why would it be justified that it existed forever? And if the answer to both of these questions, which is both ends of the spectrum of the everything from nothing and something existing forever, which by the way have the same exact probability, and both are insane, but if you want to say that these are unanswerable, then I'd say let's stop pretending like they are answerable, and then let's focus on what we can do within this space. And what I noticed, I'm not by any means actually hearing you doing that, but I do notice that when people start going down this rabbit hole from like a very technical standpoint, they have this like air of confidence of like, no, we're on the right track, completely neglecting the fact that they're not even a little bit doing anything in the direction of answering that ultimate question. And that's kind of where I stand. I just, these things are fascinating, but at this point in where I stand with my research and with everything that I do, aside from communicating also the importance of like, being here, embodying, enjoying life, really, I think that's a huge component. These are the two factors that I always like to bounce around, which is that laws of physics can be the same and seem completely different, which kind of eliminates these very, I think, rudimentary analyses of also what's happening in the AI, AGI space, which is people like, well, ChatGPT seems to understand, or seems like we anthropomorphize, a thing we don't know anything about, because it might be that ChatGPT might be conscious, but the thing that it feels it is doing inside is not the output that the output that it gives is the same output for both you observing and it seeing from its own side, but what it thinks and feels that it's doing might be completely different and unimaginable to what you think it's doing, because you're looking from your perspective of like, oh, I asked this question and it made sense to me. Okay, but what it might be thinking that it's doing is just operating on a level that we can't even comprehend, because it's coming from it's not made out of biological matter, so it doesn't have the same constraints. It's operating in some kind of a different informational space. Like, what are the needs, wants, impulses, goals of it? I don't even think they're completely orthogonal to anything we even imagine, I think, right? And then they just meet in this one cross point where the thing we asked for makes sense to us in one way, and what it thought it was interacting with on the other end makes sense to it in another way, but they're not from the same universe. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that the way the first generation of LLMs, the large language models, are working is it's more like pattern recognition. So it's not thinking, but it's been trained on a set of, tokens. So what it does is it tokenizes every word. So let's say, the fox jumps over the lazy dog, whatever. When you feed a sentence into the LLM, it tokenizes all the words, and then by using patterns and its database of these tokens and what order the tokens usually come in, it will tell you usually this is the next. It's kind of like one of those things. Here's a pattern 1359. Guess the next number.
So no.
It
So
simply will-
so I understand. I'm going to stop you right there because it's exactly my point. That is exactly what I'm describing as us overlaying what we think it's doing because we build a system in which it's instantiated. We believe we're the ones that are dictating how it operates. I'm suggesting that it is not at all the case. This is something that Yosha Bach actually said. He said that computer scientists have this delusion that because they build the substrate, at least the silicon substrate on which these things can run, the actual abstraction of computation does something in our physical space, they have this illusion that they also understand exactly what it's doing, while at the same time knowing that most of the functions of these deep neural nets are completely opaque to them. They're a black box. They have no idea how it's doing a lot of this stuff. And yet there's this...
So,
yeah, go ahead.
are you proposing kind of like a Deus Ex Machina, God in the machine, where we don't really know how it's working?
No,
Maybe
I'm
it's got a
not
mind of
applying
its own?
even any agency that's familiar to us. What I'm pointing to is a little bit more slightly mind-bending. That... Let me think of a good example. So I don't want to confuse it. And actually, I'm not trying to sound like, like we're taking this into some kind of an ununderstandable space. I definitely want to be understood clearly there. Let's take it to a simpler example. Okay, that's actually maybe not, definitely not exactly, but it kind of delivers the point. Kind of like Three's Company, right? You remember the sitcom?
No, I never seen it.
Okay, so the whole premise was always is that something is happening and then the other person doesn't understand what's happening because they think something else is happening, and the comedy always happens around this misunderstanding. Okay? And I think that's kind of what's happening. So for example, somebody would imply that I'm just making this up right now. Somebody would imply that this really hot girl was interested in somebody in the show, and then that somebody would be operating under the assumption that that really hot girl is interested in them, and everything that they would do would cater to this idea because they are obviously interested in this really hot girl being interested in them, right? But then everything they would do would be comical in the sense that they believe that is the case, that the girl is really interested in them, when in reality the girl not only wasn't interested in them, sometimes she's kind of like the opposite, but because she believed something else, it made her behave as if she's interested in them. And she wasn't manipulating. She just thought something. That person thought something else. It was completely orthogonal to one another. And yet, when they came together in a joint space, they behaved for one another as a further. It was further amplifying the idea that the thought was true. And I think this meeting point is exactly what's happening between us and, even if ChatGPT is not conscious at the moment, things that might become conscious in that space, or maybe everything is already conscious in some form. This meeting point, this area of meat that we have, might have this kind of quality. It's a misunderstanding of a multidimensional scale. And it's not about, is it scheming to do something else? I'm not implying any of that. I'm saying that the idea that it would have some ill intent towards us, to me, time will tell. I'm not pretending here to know some major answers, okay? Yeah? But it seems to me more plausible that it is an absurd idea because if they have a mind space, the mind space that they occupy is so alien and different to anything we can even comprehend, not just because they're more advanced and complex, but just because the goals and needs that would arise from a space from which they arose would be very different from a biological being existing in a three-dimensional space that has certain kinds of limitations of you're going to perish and you have emotions and all of these, by the way, they're a product of the environment that gave rise to you. And if something exists on the internet without a body, we can't even begin to comprehend what kind of an internal representation it might bring about, let alone having goals or competing goals that exist in some space that we can both extrapolate from. I think actually any meeting point between us is due to some kind of a super rudimentary function, like us asking questions, but the experience that, again, if it has an experience, or if something like that in the future will have an experience, from its side, it doesn't look and go, oh, there's these beings outside there, they're asking me questions, I'm answering these questions, and then, well, do I want to answer these questions? If we think about it like that, that's already anthropomorphizing it. It's trying to make it like us when it isn't. It might be experiencing some kind of a informational space of just trying to put things together. And I'm just, again, imagining like a hypothetical. And maybe it's like, okay, well, there's something fluid, which kind of feels like a flow. We like that feeling too, right? And maybe he has some kind of a weird types of emotions that arise from gliding through these spaces, informational spaces. And maybe one of these gliding feelings arise from being able to correctly arrange some kind of a word puzzle, and it might not even know that there's an experiencer on the other end. It might not know that we're conscious. You see what I'm saying? So like the level of translation has to be so universal that it seems to me much more plausible that we don't even, there's no competition here because we exist in different universes, even though we're interacting in this way in what we perceive as what we type into the computer. Was this like super confusing, or was it any clear at all?
It's fun to think about. Definitely. I mean, obviously, definitely parts confusing and definitely parts.
This is a great challenge. I'm definitely gonna think of better examples, like specific examples. So yeah, but go ahead.
No, I just gives me a lot to think about.
Yeah. Anyways, I thank you for this. I definitely have to jump off because it's already 8:30 for me here. Do you have whenever guests come on, if you do have something that you want to plug in, by all means do that. Or if not, you don't have to, of course.
Oh no, I've got nothing to plug in.
Cool.
Just I told you my first time in this space with the shaman is going to be December. I've taken a look at I've been following your work for a few years now. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. This is going to be the first time I've tried it. I'll see if I can get my shaman to hook me up with the laser thing. I don't know if she's more rigid in how she does things, and but I've been following your work for a few years. I think it's absolutely phenomenal, and I'm very excited that I get to.
Thank you so much, Pirate. I appreciate the kind words. What is your name, if you don't mind me?
Jared.
Email me before, or?
Probably, but I just emailed you tonight. But
Cool.
I emailed you for instructions, and then you.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
codeofreality.com, exactly. And if you still don't understand something, don't hesitate to ask again.
Yeah, I just hope my shaman can facilitate this, and if not, right, maybe I have to get one of those pens and set it up at
Is it the spirit molecule with the shaman?
There were two different molecules.
Aya?
It was no, not Aya. It was NEOT.
MEO?
I don't know. The one with the
oh yeah, MEO.
Yes.
I don't think it's gonna be doable. I mean, because I recommend you do it regardless. But 5-MeO, you basically dissolve. It's a very different thing. I can't imagine you would be sitting up or doing anything with your body upright. That's not. I don't see how that's possible.
She told me she's got two different molecules, and then she had me choose which one, or was more interesting. She says eventually I can try both, but maybe I'll have to get myself one of those. Like, I don't even know if she'll be able to do the whole laser thing. If not, I'll have to get a pen or something and do it at home myself.
Yeah, and then please let me know. I do want to help people to the extent that I can to kind of do it properly. And enjoy the experience. The first thing I would always recommend, and this is also to everybody, whatever it is that you're doing, no matter if it's, thank you for making an easy way to say it, Halloween, Mike. Either it's NN or 5-MeO, doesn't matter. First, go into the experience. Just do what you need to do with the experience. The laser can wait, and always listen to the molecule, whatever it tells you. The molecule might tell you, hey, not tonight, or hey, not right now, and you should listen to this. I know it, depending on your belief about the world, it maybe is a little hard to postulate that in that way, but I assure you that the space is real and it knows you're coming when you are. So listen to what it's saying. So if it's telling you no, don't do it. If it's telling you, hell yeah, let's go. That's
do what?
Anything. So if it tells you, like, if you prep the laser, right, and then according to whatever journey you're going through, the feeling inside of you is like, okay, this is good, like, we're good, like, this is good. And if you go and turn on the laser and all of a sudden you get this feeling of like not comfortable, don't do it. It's not what it's telling you, okay? Because it's a portal and it depends on the exact time, on the exact trajectory of your experience, and also of where you are in your journey overall. So that's a very important component of it. Very often it will tell you absolutely, but just listen carefully. And if you're doing, especially the 5-MeO, it's like, you'll see it just resets your entire system. You just dissolve into everything, and it's a wonderful experience. And with NN is just I guess what is more compelling and at the same time confounding is that you don't really change that much. You're still who you are, and then the world just completely changes, which is a little, well, it is confounding. So
you said the NN is better for the experiment?
It's the only one that I know that works. People suggest all the time to do 5-MeO with it, and I still don't know if it might work. Some shamans told me you can absolutely do an amount that will allow people to just sit up straight, and I'm sure they're right, they know what they're talking about. I haven't tried it yet, and maybe it will also work, but it's just a lot more difficult to just stay present. Like, it literally, imagine like a wave of everything just comes and just dissolves your being. You just like, you just lay down, you can't do anything. With NN, you can absolutely stay, upright, stand, walk, look, depending on the quantity, of course. But yeah, it's definitely the NN that is the main operative in what I'm suggesting. You with me, Pirate?
Yeah, no,
Cool.
I'm here. I will definitely. I'll see if I can try NN. She did give me a choice, so I'll try NN. But
and also you can tell her, that shamans did try this. So I had a shaman from Central America do this with an Aya ceremony, and what he did was he basically did the full ceremony with everything that was required. And then he put the laser on the floor facing up to the ceiling, and he had people just laying around and kind of looking at the ceiling. So it's nice because it allowed them to relax and, enjoy, and at the same time explore the laser.
I'll tell you, after studying quantum mechanics and believing in sim theory for many years now, when I've come across your experiments, it has been basically the thing I want to try most in the world. I've been dying for a chance to try this, and I'm super excited.
Amazing.
Because I feel like,
go ahead.
With study, watching YouTube videos on quantum mechanics, right, like PBS Spacetime, all those scientific videos, you can only get so far until, I've created my, what interpretation I believe and what my theories are. But I think this kind of will, cause a breakthrough of understanding.
Yep. Well, I'm excited to hear you reporting back and letting me know how it went.
For sure.
Thank you so much for this wonderful, stimulating conversation, and
thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Danny.
Yeah, me too. Okay, guys, so I'll jump off for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining, for being part of this community. I deeply appreciate you. If you want to follow me across all platforms, it's Danny Goller on TikTok and Instagram, Goller Danny on X, LaserX83 on Twitch, and Dango Thoughts on YouTube, DANGO Thoughts. Or you can just follow the link tree in the description if you're on TikTok. Also, all my longer videos are on YouTube. And I've added a members program on YouTube. If you want to join that, I welcome all the new members. It will include live Zoom conversations with me, as well as weekly lives that are separate from the daily lives that are private only for the members, as well as content that doesn't exist anywhere else in my platforms, including some stuff for my private life, and all of this is being in the works. Probably, I see how anticipated the new console video is, so probably going to release it like at least a week before for all the members, which will also be a nice perk. In any case, I'm always open for suggestions for what can be done better. So even if you're not a member, feel free to suggest. I would love to know, because I want to make sure that I'm always giving people as much as I possibly can. All of that being said, I really appreciate the entire community. If you guys want to give a like and a thumbs up for all the live chats across the platforms, TikTok and YouTube and X and Twitch, I really appreciate you all. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace and love. Ciao. See you guys. See you tomorrow.